What if I told you that one simple conversation could dramatically improve your team's performance, make them less likely to quit, and leave them thinking you're one of the best managers they've ever had? It sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? But I've seen it happen. One team I work with were going through a massive organizational change. Yet, as they rode that change roller coaster, they retained every single team member and their performance just got better and better. The secret? A powerful coaching conversation. In this video, I'll share a simple coaching framework that, if you use it, could transform your team. And I'll walk you through it step by step with plenty of question examples so that you can understand what it sounds like and know how to put it into action. To make this work for you, we need to talk about a big problem that's holding back many managers from fully unlocking their team's potential. Every day, people are quitting their jobs unnecessarily. Gallup reports that a staggering 51% of US employees are either watching for or actively seeking new jobs. Even more shocking, of those who leave, 42% say their manager or their organization could have done something to change their mind. And trust me, these stats are not unique to the US. This conversation we're about to dive into is the something that could make the difference. As a manager, the more you understand your team's ambitions and aspirations, the better equipped you are to help them achieve their goals. But as a leadership coach, I've noticed that far too few managers are having these in-depth conversations with their teams. Maybe they squeeze in a quick chat during the annual performance review process, but it's not enough. And when I run leadership workshops and ask why these conversations aren't happening, the top reason is always about time. It's too time consuming, they say, or I don't have enough time for that. But dig a little deeper and you'll find that many managers simply feel unprepared. They worry about managing their team's expectations and balancing the employee aspirations with the organizational realities. In other words, they're afraid to open that can of worms. This is where the Grow coaching model becomes your secret weapon. It's not about you creating a plan for your team members. It's about empowering them to create their own plans. And then you'll be amazed at how creative both you and they can be in developing strategies that align their ambitions with your current organization. The key is identifying those high impact skills and experiences that will propel them towards their next career step. This approach allows you to align individual needs and team needs, especially when it comes to delegating and coordinating work. And here's the best part. The better you do this, the better each individual's performance will be. Why? Because they will be more motivated knowing their job is actually helping them achieve their personal goals. Let's examine the Grow model. So it's a coaching framework that helps you guide your conversation. It can be used in all kinds of situations, but works really well when having career discussions. Grow stands for goal. What does the person want to achieve? Reality, where are they now and what's the gap that's stopping them? Options, what options do they have to achieve their goal? And will is all about exploring commitment, accountability, and ultimately confirming the action plan. So if we think about Grow for career coaching, what you're doing is, in the goal, you're helping the employee define their career aspirations. In reality, you're helping them evaluate their current skills and position. In options, you help them identify the opportunities for growth. And in will, they create their action plan. Your job is to ask the questions. And this involves being what I would call a question ninja, asking good, open-ended questions, listening, and consciously not interrupting or answering the questions yourself. When people first start practicing using Grow, it can feel a little clunky, and it's like driving a car and changing gear. Now, for all the Americans watching in your automatic cars, bear with, and think about the majority of UK drivers happily driving around with a stick shift. And when changing gears, if you get the clutch and the gear changed slightly off, it can leave you and the car shuddering and losing pace. We don't want that. A smooth gear change in a coaching conversation is between these steps, and it results by doing these two things. First, summarize what you heard. And this might be one sentence or it may be structuring many thoughts or ideas that the person has shared. What this does is make the person feel heard, and it helps improve understanding. Secondly, ask if there is anything else. And if they say yes, stay there and find out more. And if they say no, move on to the next stage smoothly. The summary and the anything else question is the bridge between each step and is the smooth gear change. If a key coaching skill is being a question ninja, knowing the kind of questions that have the most impact helps you build that muscle memory as you practice your coaching skills. So I'll walk you through the steps and share the questions that can work in each stage. So first goal, there are really three lenses you can explore. The long-term lens, how would you describe your ideal role in 5 years? The short-term lens, specific career milestone do you want to achieve next year? And then this question is very helpful if people are unsure of the goal or are happy in their role and do not want to be promoted or change jobs. What skills or experiences do you want to gain for your career? Don't restrict them to what you can deliver in the organization, and don't worry if you think they can't do it. It's their plan, not yours. Next, reality. So this is where you're helping them assess where they are now in achieving that goal. And it is important at the end that you both understand the gap. Questions that are useful are, what skills have you developed in this role that will help you achieve your career goals? What gaps in experience and skills do you have in relation to your goal? How does your current performance contribute to or hinder your career aspirations? What feedback have you received from your colleagues or supervisors about your work? Who do you see doing this role really well already, and why? What networks or relationships have you built that could support your career growth? What do you like doing? What do you dislike doing? How does your work-life balance impact your career progression? What obstacles or challenges do you foresee in reaching your goal? These last questions help people explore mindset as well as skills. Sometimes people are very able to achieve their goals, but for example, lack confidence. And that plan would be very different to someone who has to learn the skills of how to do something. Remember to summarize and ask if there's anything else before moving on to the next stage, which is options. So options, we help the person explore the different ways they could achieve this goal. And this is important as people often create very narrow plans, which give them focus but miss the many day-to-day opportunities to improve their skills and experiences. So I've given you a longer list here, as experience tells me this is where managers often run out of questions and instead flip into giving their own advice. Hold back from doing that, at least until they have thought it through for themselves. Remember, it's their plan. These questions are, what different paths could you take to reach your goal? What skills or knowledge gaps must you address to achieve your career goals? What experiences would help you achieve this goal? Which skill set, if you were to focus on, would have the biggest impact? What additional responsibilities could you take on to develop new skills? Who could you connect with who could help you? What networking events or professional associations could you join to expand your opportunities? What cross-functional work collaborations could expose you to different aspects of the business? Who could you job shadow to help you explore potential career paths? What resources or support do you need to achieve your objective? What internal opportunities within the organization align with your career goals? If there were no limitations, what would you do to reach your goal? Okay, that's a long list. Remember, this is not about using all these questions in this order, but more giving you a springboard to jump from. You may want to offer some advice at this stage. For example, you might know someone that they do not and offer to connect them. You can help join the dots, but don't take over. A way of doing this is to ask if you can give some advice first so that the person keeps ownership. You then want to change the gear by summarizing and asking anything else. And then we move to will. So this is where the rubber hits the road and the person creates their plan. The questions are, what specific actions will you take to achieve this goal? How will you measure your progress towards your goal? What's your timeline for achieving these steps? What support or resources do you need to implement your plan? Who can help you? How can I help you? What potential setbacks might you face? And how will you overcome them? How will you hold yourself accountable for following through on these actions? On a scale of 1 to 10, how committed are you to this plan and what would make it a 10? These questions help the person create a robust action plan and increase their commitment to following through. Remember to tailor these questions to the specific context of your coaching conversation and the individual's career goals. If you had followed these steps, your team members would have created a robust plan and increased your understanding of where they are and what they want to and need to do. They would also really appreciate this conversation and the time that they have had with you. But what if during the conversation you realize there may be a gap between their aspirations and the organization's ability to deliver them? Now, many managers worry that their team members will leave, especially their talented team members. But this is a false economy. As we've seen, the person will think this and make a plan irrelevant of you helping them create that plan. Yes, people leave to get on in their careers. I have, and chances you have. But what you have done is buy yourself time to try and find the right opportunity within the organization, especially if this is a high quality person you know is valuable and you don't want to lose. Plus, it also helps you plan for the future, training team members and building up your team's capability. The benefit is that on the whole, you can create work opportunities to help them achieve their goals. That work is done to a high standard as the person knows it is helping them fulfill their career goals. Many times people I know have changed jobs and told me afterwards they had no idea how good it was where they were. The grass is not always greener on the other side. Working for a good boss and a stimulating and empowering environment accounts for so much in retaining team members. I mentioned that career conversations often form part of the performance review process, and many people have these discussions, often in a short form, in or around the performance review itself. I recommend separating them. Have this conversation soon in the next quarter. Devote a one-on-one to it. Ask your team members to think about it beforehand so that they can come prepared, their thoughts all together, and then you can enter next year with a much clearer idea of their desires and start capitalizing on that knowledge now. Plus, you get to practice this valuable skill set soon. I promise you, your team members will thank you for it. If you want to know more about the performance review process and how to leverage this critical leadership activity to enhance your team's success, I would go to this video, The Ultimate Guide to Performance Reviews. In it, I break down that admin-heavy process so that you can make sure they become high-impact team moments. And I'd go there next.